Twitter's early success was its proximity to celebrity, fame, and power. Celebrities used Twitter to spread their brand, and they usually had someone to do it for them. Chris Evans does not follow you on Twitter. Chris Evans's social media manager follows you on Twitter. Politicians used Twitter to repeat talking points that were discussed and agreed upon in small caucus meetings and telephone conferences among party leaders. Only a handful of prominent politicians are actually typing their tweets with their own thumbs and with their own phones, and it's usually politicians with no impulse control. Everyone else has someone else. Political tweets exploded in the 2010s. Twitter reacted to these tweets as if the politicians themselves were shooting from the hip with improvised, passionate, personal tweets. And under this false impression, users retweeted these talking points, becoming unpaid volunteers for one of the two major political parties in the United States. Politicians and their staffs, mostly their staffs, started taking Twitter seriously. Twitter's microblog format and character limit made it the perfect soundbite delivery system. Short, punchy quips that purposefully lack context that would allow people to refute them. Twitter became the town hall for politics. Not everyone was actually on Twitter, but that did not matter because local and cable news would report on tweets. Its actual user base was less significant than how it was reported. Voters without Twitter accounts still learned about its goings-on and still felt its effects. Ordinary users got invested. Twitter politicos who gained enough of a following were eventually retweeted and followed by politicians' accounts, earning themselves credibility. It allowed journalists greater access to politicians, but it also allowed pseudo-journalists the same level of access. It benefited politicians to befriend these ordinary Twitter users too. This symbiotic relationship allowed fringe memers and posters a seat at the table, and nothing was ever the same again. Politicians started spreading conspiracy theories that you previously could only find on your uncle's Facebook, and politicians became more hostile and uncivil because that was the format that people responded to. If you have ever wondered why political discourse in the United States now resembles political discourse on social media, now you know. On the Democrat side, party line towers like the host of Mueller, She Wrote could get invited to the White House. On the Republican side, far-right provocateur Nick Fuentes could get invited to Mar-a-Lago even after he became a non-factor on Twitter. Conservatives and even far-right Twitter politicos could gain status through association with the Republican Party. The 21st century far-right resurgence was born on the internet. Liberals could gain status through association with the mainstream Democratic Party, but the actual left could not, because there is no leftist party in the United States to endorse leftist accounts. Twitter was more helpful to the right than the center because the Democrats don't move far from the center, but Republicans could adopt garden variety conservative Twitter accounts and far-right Twitter accounts. The far right has advanced so far because it has been adopted by the Republican Party, and the Democratic Party can't fight it because it refuses to adopt the actual left. Liberalism cannot fight fascism. By 2017, Republicans could routinely retweet racist, homophobic, transphobic, Islamophobic, and anti-Semitic memes with little pushback because the Overton window had shifted. Before Donald Trump was the 45th president, he was the world's most successful Twitter troll, making anti-Semitic jabs at liberal mainstays like Jon Stewart and racist jabs at then-President Barack Obama. When Trump was sworn in as president, not in spite of his behavior but because of it, the window of acceptability changed in American politics. Many have argued that without Twitter, Trump would not have been able to spread his right-wing, reactionary brand in the lead-up to his presidential campaign announcement. In other words, without Twitter, Trump would not have become president. But he did become president, and the modern form of Republican Twitter was born. For the uninitiated, every significant topic, interest, and demographic on Twitter uses this naming convention. These corners have no lines of demarcation nor official status. They exist through informal thought leaders, hashtags, and common topics. The modern form of Democrat Twitter was codified by opposition to Trump, a resist hashtag, and talking points retweeted by Democratic politicians. It's pretty obnoxious, and if you want to learn more, I already made a video on Democrat Twitter. To summarize, Democrat Twitter is where they say, "Hillary warned us," as if her opposition to Donald Trump in 2016 was clairvoyant. She was the Democratic nominee. It would have been more remarkable if she did not say that Trump would be a bad president. You know who else warned us about Trump? Millions upon millions of Americans. Anyway, that's Democrat Twitter in a nutshell. Republican Twitter is characterized by an endless barrage of misinformation, unfunny and offensive memes, and the weirdest and worst personalities on the platform. Republican Twitter, much like the real-world Republican Party, is even worse than its Democratic counterpart. Republican Twitter has been changing lately, for the worse. Without Donald Trump, the right needed a new Twitter savior, and a gaggle of losers and thousands of bots elected Elon Musk as their new God King. Musk flirted with purchasing Twitter for some dishonest reason or another, and when he tried to back out because he was never actually planning to do it, he couldn't, and he was forced to purchase it. Now, the worst possible Twitter user owns Twitter, and everything is worse on the platform than it was before. As explained by Nilay Patel, editor-in-chief of The Verge, "You f***ed up real good, kiddo. Twitter is a disaster clown car company that is successful despite itself, and there is no possible way to grow users and revenue without making a series of enormous compromises that will ultimately destroy your reputation and possibly cause grievous damage to your other companies." I say this with utter confidence because the problems with Twitter are not engineering problems. They are political problems. Twitter, the company, makes very little interesting technology. The tech stack is not the valuable asset. The asset is the user base, hopelessly addicted politicians, reporters, celebrities, and other people who should know better but keep posting anyway. You, Elon Musk, are addicted to Twitter. You're the asset. You just bought yourself for $44 billion. Most relevant to the topic of Republican Twitter, Musk lifted the suspensions of nearly every right-wing provocateur that was previously banned from the platform. To allow himself some cover, he also brought back some liberal comedian, but the real move was populating Twitter with people who might support him and shake things up. Hundreds of far-right QAnon and otherwise bigoted accounts were reinstated. These include transphobic crybaby Jordan Peterson, sexual abuser Andrew Tate, right-wing death of comedy account Babylon B, far-right fake news account Project Veritas, anti-Semitic downward spiral Kanye West, gormless loser and failed political candidate Sargon of Akkad, self-professed white supremacist and founder of the neo-Nazi website The Daily Stormer, Andrew Anglin, and a host of transphobic accounts like James Lindsay and Meghan Murphy. Kanye's account was suspended again, but nearly everyone else who came back is still there. Democrat Twitter got a comedian back that nobody really wanted, but Republican Twitter got back actual politicians like Marjorie Taylor Greene and the former President of the United States. His Twitter radio silence is only due to his current legal and financial obligations to his own social media platform, Truth Social. That will not last forever, and it's only a matter of time before he tweets again. The platform has become nigh unusable, and not only because of the constant breaks and errors, but because Twitter is now a cesspool of trolls. Remember message boards from 20 years ago and how there was always a handful of people who made the experience miserable for the 99% of the people who were just there to talk about their niche hobby? Immediately after Musk's purchase, they spammed the N-word over and over again to see if they could get away with it. And guess what? They did. Republican Twitter adopted these racists and weirdos as their own rather than pushing them to the side for being extremists. As explained by Charlie Warzel of The Atlantic, in just a few months, Musk has actively worked to elevate a particular right-wing anti-woke ideology. He has reinstated legions of accounts that were previously banned for violating Twitter's rules, and has emboldened trolls, white nationalist accounts, and January 6th defendants. Musk's own rhetoric has moved from trolling to dog whistling to outright conspiracy peddling, and it has intensified in recent months, culminating in his recent anti-Semitic remarks about George Soros. A stroll through Musk's replies on the site reveals the extent to which one of the richest men in the world spends his time replying to far-right influencers and nodding in approval to their racist memes. Social media platforms are not strangers to far-right extremism. Mass shooters often leave a lot of evidence on Facebook, and there are social media apps designed for the right from the ground up. Parler, Gab, Getter, Truth Social, to name a few. Alternative right-wing apps are now redundant because one of the biggest social media apps available, Twitter, is now, for all intents and purposes, just as right-wing as Parler and about as friendly to Republicans as Truth Social. There are other related factors that have led to the rise of the right on Twitter, but all the modern examples are pretty much related to Elon Musk. For one, many journalists and major news outlets have understandably quit the platform in protest, leaving fewer voices to counter the right-wing mob. For another, those who buy blue are more likely to be a Musk adherent, and the platform prioritizes these accounts while diminishing the visibility of other accounts. Disinformation, propaganda, conspiracy theories, and outright lies are being pushed to the top. The loudest voices are often the worst voices. For yet another, Twitter has banned left-wing accounts that expose fascists. Twitter permits Andy Ngo to have an account, but not Chad Loder. Twitter permits Richard Spencer to have an account, but not It's Going Down. There are no rules, there are simply favorites, and Musk has been playing favorites ever since he grabbed power. And finally, now that Musk has fired a tremendous amount of Twitter employees, content moderation has become almost non-existent. Troves of right-wing accounts have noticed this and have taken advantage of the situation by mass flagging accounts that don't share their politics. Musk has created a safe haven for the right. When conspiracy theorists need to promote their nonsense, they have a friend in Musk. Twitter always had its problems, but these problems have been exacerbated and joined by new problems ever since October of last year. It's not a great place to be, and the one corner of the website that has benefited most from the chaos has been Republican Twitter. To any Musk followers who wish to claim that their lord may not be a registered Republican, I don't really care. Neither you nor I have access to his voter registration card anyway. What matters is what someone does, not what someone claims. Right-wing agitators love to call themselves classical liberals all the time, all the while spouting far-right talking points. This means nothing. Increasing hostility has allowed for other microblogging social media apps to take their shot. Blue Sky's temporary invitation-only model has proven helpful in keeping out most ne'er-do-wells from the platform, whereas Threads, a new project from Facebook and Instagram owner Meta, has almost immediately become a hotbed for transphobia, right-wing creeps, and brands desperate for a Twitter alternative. But that's a topic for another day. So, who are the thought leaders of Republican Twitter in 2023? First things first, it's important to understand that most people don't rise to the top of Twitter organically. Right-wing troll Catturd has his following and status artificially inflated by Elon Musk himself. This was confirmed in some leaked documents. Ben Shapiro and his colleagues have significant funding from conservative groups, and the celebrity Republicans like James Woods have status outside of Twitter. Still, even among the fakes, there are winners and losers. So who are the unofficial spokespeople of the conservative brand in US politics? It's mostly a collection of fallen celebrities, pundits, and conspiracy theory weirdos. Those three things are not mutually exclusive, but let's categorize this to keep it orderly. Kid Rock is a musician who was popular in the brief period in the 2000s when record studios were throwing anything and everything against the wall in the absence of real stars and real talent. Kid Rock stuck to the wall, did well for himself, fell off, and rebranded himself as a political figure who flirted with becoming a United States senator. He's the former president's favorite artist, or at least that's what it seems like. Kid Rock's most recent political statement of sorts was a song and an accompanying music video about how millennials are wimps and love participation trophies. Talking points from about 5 years before the song dropped. It was so embarrassing that the world's nicest guy, Weird Al Yankovic, dunked on it. On Twitter, he's infamous for homophobic slurs and sexist, vulgar statements about Taylor Swift of all people. Kid Rock has a staggering 1 million Twitter followers because even though he's a joke, he's still one of the biggest Republican celebrities who wastes his time on social media. Scott Adams is a cartoonist who is most famous for creating Dilbert, an unfunny strip that became well, more of itself as the years passed. Adams started to incorporate more of his own politics into his humor, and the reviews were not kind. A professional comedy writer fell back on the so-called one joke, "I identify as something." You do this for a living, Scott, what the hell? Adams boasts nearly 1 million followers. During the height of the pandemic, he suddenly became a science skeptic like so many other Republicans and made a lot of wild predictions that ended up not coming true. In 2020, Adams claimed that his Dilbert television series was canceled because of anti-white discrimination. In 2023, Adams called black people a hate group and that white people should just get away from them. The distributor for Dilbert cut ties to Adams, understandably, which effectively ended the comic strip. Recently, he has stated that he will create a sequel comic strip, Dilbert Reborn, through an online subscription service. Yeah, okay, good luck, dipshit. Ben Shapiro is a talking head for the conservative news website and media company, The Daily Wire. If you can think of a political issue, Shapiro has probably tweeted about it and has probably had the most extreme right-wing position. He is anti-choice, even in cases of rape or incest. His position on Israel and Palestine is extremist even by the current apartheid standards. He believes being gay is a mental illness, and he is among the most transphobic voices on the platform, and that's saying a lot. Shapiro boasts an astounding Twitter following of nearly 6 million. Nobody knows how many are bots, but that's still about 6 times higher than Kid Rock. Until recently, Tucker Carlson was the biggest star on Fox News. His daily Tucker Carlson Tonight was a ratings juggernaut, spewing white nationalist talking points with only the tiniest whiff of plausible deniability. He was also huge on Twitter, and when he was tossed from Fox News because of some of his private comments, he found a new home for his videos on Twitter. Not another news channel, not even that weird video website with Steven Crowder on it. No, Tucker Carlson thought that a platform designed for short-burst microblogging seemed like the perfect place for an hour-long news program. His views have completely collapsed. Can you make a living from being an internet troll? Apparently, as Catturd has proven. Real name Philip Buchanan, Catturd is a right-wing weirdo pushing 60 years old. A talentless poster who tweets antiquated liberal tears memes, exactly the kind of humor the right loves. Yes, congratulations on noticing when people are upset. You're a real American hero. Catturd is an election conspiracy theorist who is desperate for the approval of Donald Trump to give his life meaning. Leaked documents have proven that Catturd is one of the few accounts that were artificially inflated by Elon Musk. So he's not really successful, he's more like astroturfed into relevance by Musk and Trump. He's a nobody that gets to pretend that he's a somebody because of an artificial follower count and his sycophantic connection to power. So what now? What's next for Republican Twitter and Twitter more broadly? Republican Twitter will continue to get more and more toxic right alongside Twitter itself because no corner of the platform has benefited more from its recent breakdown. Conservative Republicans will cry that they are merely free speech absolutists, and then when you ask them about what specifically they want to say, they will either cower from the question or respond with slurs and bigoted statements. The only saving grace here is that right-wing groups are so cantankerous and volatile that they have already started to self-destruct and splinter. Ben Shapiro is realizing what it means to advocate for the farthest right politics possible and be surrounded by people who usually desire those same policies, Nazis. His status among Christian nationalists as the one living Jewish man that they will trust has been damaged by an influx of the worst people imaginable to the platform. Steven Crowder is having some kind of blow-up with Candace Owens. Matt Walsh is crying foul about his transphobic movie not working on the platform. And Catturd has seemingly turned his back on Elon Musk. You made this mess, Elon. Now live with it.